I research football almost every day of my life, but don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun. I love doing it. But it's gotten to the point now where I'm dreaming about stats. My wife loves it when we talk about rankings at the dinner table. Actually, no, she doesn't. That was an absolute lie. She would probably feed me dog food if I did that. But I am obsessive about winning. I'm obsessive about giving out the best information that I possibly can. That's why in today's video, I'm going to share a few of my favorite players to draft in 2024. Okay, so this is how we're gonna do this here today. I'm gonna give you 4 players at each main position: quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end that I find myself drafting the most of in 2024. I'll have some early round guys, some mid-round guys, some late round guys. I really didn't think it would be beneficial to you, the viewer, if I made a video telling you how much I like Tyreek Hill and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I mean, I really do like them, but the chances of you drafting both of them are slim to none, and Slim is out warming up the car right now because he plans on leaving. Now, this also doesn't mean that these are the only players I like. These are just guys that I have identified throughout the offseason that I really want on the majority of my fantasy football teams, whether it be because of price on draft day, production, or even opportunity. So let's go ahead and start off at the quarterback position. And here are the 4 guys that I find myself drafting a lot of in 2024. The first one is CJ Stroud, the overall quarterback 5 with a 4th round ADP. I think everyone knows at this point he has a super high ceiling. It's not too far off of that of the top 4 guys being drafted. The biggest difference is it's a cheaper price, at least in the 4th round. That is the absolute earliest I will go to draft a quarterback. But this offense is stacked with Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, Tank Dell, Joe Mixon. CJ Stroud has an opportunity to go out there and throw for 40 plus touchdowns this season. While I may not dislike the guys being drafted ahead of him, I do like that I can get him at the cheapest price. I also love Jordan Love, the current quarterback 9 overall in the 6th round. He may have the best young group of wide receivers in the NFL, and not a lot of people talk about it. We got Christian Watson for like 6 games a year. But aside from him, we still have Romeo Doubs. We have Jaden Reed, and Dontavian Wicks is a name that not too many people talk about. If you are unfamiliar with Dontavian Wicks, do yourself a favor. Go to YouTube one night when you're laying in bed, trying to fall asleep. Just look up some of his game film. The dude is absolutely underrated. Steve Smith actually came out recently and said it reminds him of Devontae Adams, and that is high praise. Jordan Love is a safe option in the mid-round that you can count on each and every week for your fantasy football team. But I also love Brock Purdy in the middle rounds. He's going as the quarterback 11 in the 8th round, and we've seen him already be a top fantasy option in San Francisco. The touchdown opportunities weekly are going to be there. He has a top offensive weapon at almost every position. In the backfield, we got Christian McCaffrey. At tight end, we got George Kittle. For wide receivers, we got Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. And we have a lot of depth at that wide receiver position as well. But one of the main reasons I find myself with a whole lot of Brock Purdy is I get him in the 8th round. That's going to give me an opportunity to draft either another running back or wide receiver in those earlier rounds because I'm not spending that pick on a quarterback. Now, if you really want to just punt quarterback altogether and get one late, my late round guy is Matthew Stafford, currently quarterback 19 overall, drafted in the 11th round this season, and now he's coming into a year in which all of his offensive weapons are healthy, not something he's been able to have for quite some time. He was the quarterback 6 overall in the entire NFL over the last 6 weeks of the season. Why is that happening? Because the entire offense was healthy then as well. Matthew Stafford is a sleeper in a lot of fantasy football leagues. But all right, now we're moving on to running backs. My 4 guys, I got Derrick Henry here first at running back 9 with a 2nd round ADP. And I really still do not understand why so many people every offseason just jump off the bandwagon of Derrick Henry. He's getting too old. He's washed. He's got no tread left on the tires. And then each and every year, Derrick Henry goes out and proves those people wrong. And then every offseason, it's like clockwork. Now he goes to one of the best running teams in the NFL, and people are still jumping ship. I don't understand that. Sure, the offensive line isn't elite. And yes, Lamar Jackson is going to be run at times as well. But they did not bring in Derrick Henry to not use him in this offense. Baltimore understands that if they want to make a run late in the season, they need a healthy Lamar Jackson. That's where Derrick Henry comes in and takes a lot of that pressure off of him. Plus the touchdown opportunities that he could see this year, maybe the highest he's ever had in his career. Now, while I don't dislike the guys in the first round, guys like Breece Hall or Bijan Robinson, even Jonathan Taylor, Jahmyr Gibbs may be up in there as well, I would rather take an elite wide receiver in the first round and then come back in the second and get a Derrick Henry. That's enough to make the eggplant excited. But then we also have a guy like Joe Mixon, currently the running back 15 with a 4th round ADP. With the offense that we have in Houston, I really expect them to have more late game leads. What does that mean in the NFL? Late game leads transition to a heavier run game. They're going to keep the clock moving. They're going to keep getting first downs. They're going to keep the ball away from their opponents. And now that we know that Houston can put points on the board with their offense, we can see this happening a lot with Joe Mixon in 2024. Even Devin Singletary last year in Houston scored double-digit fantasy points in 7 of the last 9 games of the season, and I like Joe Mixon a lot more than I like Devin Singletary. What about Alvin Kamara, the current RB17 going in the 5th round? Now, Kamara missed 4 games last year and still finished higher than where he's being drafted this year, and that makes no damn sense to me. Sure, he may not be some top 5 running back anymore, but if we know anything, it's that Derek Carr is going to check the ball down. With the price tag that we get Alvin Kamara at this year, it is way too good to pass up. If he's on the board in the 5th round, I'm probably not passing him for almost anyone else. And then lastly, a late round guy. Jalen Wright, running back of the Miami Dolphins, currently the running back 44 going inside the 12th round. Now, everyone you talk to either has concerns about Raheem Mostert or Devon Achan's health. Can they handle a full workload all year long? Are they going to break down? Are they going to miss time? It's something that everyone talks about. Well, if that's the case, if that's what people are worried about, then Jalen Wright has to be an absolute priority pick for everyone inside the 12th round. We already know that they like to use multiple running backs in Miami. We already know that that backfield produces huge points. We also know that Jalen Wright is a burner himself. If Mostert and Achan break down throughout the season, the guy who's going to get the biggest jump in production is going to be Jalen Wright, and I draft him late rounds all the time. All right, now before we transition into wide receivers, I need to see who's paying attention out there. If you're listening intently, throw the hashtag DraftEm down below in the comment section. And then after you do that, be sure to hit the like button, because once this video gets over 1,000 likes, I'm going to pick a random commenter who left that hashtag down below to give them a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide. Now, maybe you're like, Jake, I just need the draft guide regardless because I need to dominate this year. I can't lose again. Head over to tfhdraftguide.com and get yourself one right now. It's only $21.99, stacked with everything you need to know to kill it in fantasy football this season. But not just that, we're going to update that bad boy all the way up until week 1 of the NFL season, so if anything changes, you get updated information. But now let's talk about them ball catchers at the wide receiver position, and the first guy I find myself drafting a lot is Amon-Ra St. Brown, wide receiver of the Detroit Lions, currently the wide receiver 5 overall, late 1st round ADP. This guy continues to get better each and every year, and I really mean that. 3 straight seasons where his numbers have increased across the board. He may be one of, if not the safest wide receiver 1 in the 1st round. Now, while his ceiling may not be as high as maybe a Tyreek Hill, his floor may be the safest of anyone else, and it's why I find myself drafting him early on. I want that good cornerstone on my team. What about Zay Flowers, the current wide receiver 26 with a 5th round ADP? We know he's going to be the number 1 receiving option in Baltimore. He really got a chance late in 2023, and he scored 17 plus fantasy points in 4 of his last 5 games. Now he really has no competition for targets at the wide receiver position, and we know that Mark Andrews kind of has trouble staying on the field. Loves some Zay Flowers in the mid rounds, just like I love Chris Godwin. Been talking about him all offseason. For whatever reason, Tampa Bay did not put Godwin in the slot full time until week 15 last year. From weeks 15 through 18, he was the wide receiver 9 overall in fantasy football. They've already come out this year and said, hey, we're putting Chris Godwin in the slot full time, which is great because we already know that Baker Mayfield likes to look for Chris Godwin in the slot. We saw at the end of 2023. And then lastly, Rashid Shaheed, wide receiver 57 for the New Orleans Saints with a 12th round ADP. He only had 75 targets last year, which he turned into 46 receptions. Yet, finished with 719 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now Michael Thomas is gone, and the role for Rashid Shaheed is expected to grow. With increased targets and his ability to go deep down the field, Rashid Shaheed should definitely outproduce his ADP. Which then only leaves us tight ends the football kind, because I'm going to try to end it on a classy note. It's Dalton Kincaid first for me. Tight end for the Buffalo Bills, the current tight end 5 overall with a 5th round ADP. There are just so many targets available in Buffalo. With the departure of Stephon Diggs and Gabe Davis, Dalton Kincaid's role is going to increase, and he's already proven to be a reliable target in that offense. We know Josh Allen is going to look his way every single week, but we kind of get him at a decent price. If you were to tell me right now that come season's end, Dalton Kincaid was the tight end 1 overall, I really wouldn't think you're crazy. It may not happen, but I wouldn't think that's crazy whatsoever, and I can get him in the 5th round instead of having to pay that expensive price tag for the 4 guys in front of him. But then if we go to the mid-rounds, we may find my favorite tight end of the year. It's Jake Ferguson of the Dallas Cowboys, the current tight end 9 overall with a 7th round ADP. And talk about an opportunity for targets. We got CeeDee Lamb. We got Brandon Cooks, who really hasn't done much the last couple years, but we got Jake Ferguson up next in this offense. We know that Dak Prescott and the Cowboys are going to throw the ball a lot. How do we know that? Their running game is not going to be elite this year. Sure, they get Ezekiel Elliott back, but he's not what he once was. He may be solid, but they're not going to command a ton of touches in that backfield. They're going to have to throw the ball. Jake Ferguson could be one of the main beneficiaries of that. But then we also have Pat Freiermuth, tight end of the Pittsburgh Steelers, the current tight end 15 overall in the 11th round. Now, if Arthur Smith really focused on one thing in Atlanta last year, it has to be throwing the ball to the tight ends, because they did it a lot. But a lot of people will come back and say, yeah, then why didn't Kyle Pitts go off? Go look at the actual stat sheet for the Atlanta Falcons. It wasn't just Kyle Pitts, it was Jonnu Smith as well. And when you combine their 2 totals, massive numbers at the tight end position. Pat Freiermuth is a huge discount that can see a lot of volume with improved quarterback play. Do not forget that both Russell Wilson and Justin Fields love to target their tight ends. And then lastly, my late round guy, it's Noah Fant of the Seattle Seahawks, tight end 23 going in the 14th round. He's a little bit more of a lottery ticket, right? Colby Parkinson and Will Dissly are now gone, no longer in Seattle. That frees up 56 targets that could be going the way of Noah Fant. Now, really, I find myself taking him with one of my last overall picks if I already had to gamble at some point in my draft with another tight end. If I did not get a solidified tight end that I know I can count on weekly, I draft 2 guys and just hope that one of them pops off and I can rely on them the rest of the season. So like I said, these were a few of the guys that I just find myself drafting a lot of in 2024. By all means, not the only guys that I like at each position. But I wanted to be sure to give you guys a good mix of early, mid, and late round options. Now, if you haven't already done so, be sure to leave that hashtag DraftEm down below and hit the like button, because once we cross 1,000 likes, I'm going to pick a random commenter from down below who left that hashtag to give a free 2024 fantasy football draft guide too. But I'm going to go ahead and get out of here today. Hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of your day, and then most importantly, do your part to make the world a better place.